The hidden cost of being seen can be steep, sometimes the price being your life. Recently, 2 stories stood out to me that serve as examples of this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So in this episode of the Authentic with Alisha podcast, where we keep it real and rooted in purpose, we're going to delve deep, and trigger warning, these topics get heavy. I'm going to start with the lighter one first. For the first time, Justin Bieber headlined Coachella. I had to double check that because I was like, wait, he must have been at Coachella, but I guess this is the first time he headlined it. And Weekend 1 wasn't received as well as I thought it would have been. A lot of people thought Weekend 1 was weak. I mean, if I saw how Weekend 2 went, I might have felt a way if I went to the first Weekend 2. For the past few days, it's remained rent-free on my mind, maybe because he's a Canadian and I remember what it was like when Bieber Fever hit Toronto back in the day. You couldn't go anywhere. It was pandemonium. To see this bubbly boy grow up into this man who's gone through so many phases in front of our eyes, and not just what he's become as a creator in his career, but also as a father, a husband, and just becoming a man. Very interesting to say the least. There's part of me that feels like no one person should ever have that amount of fame, much less a child. Like that's a case study for another day. I remember what it was like in the beginning when you couldn't go anywhere in the city without little girls having a fit. It'd be so annoying on my way to school. But as he grew up, his music grew on me. I really appreciate seeing the evolution of self. He's had some slip-ups, I still remember him harmonizing a certain word. That was great. When I think about child celebrities, I do not envy them one bit. The amount of pressure. I even at my big old age, I wouldn't want those stresses. I remember growing up, my mom would always say all that glitters isn't gold. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. But the older I got and the more I saw, the more I realized how true that was. It wasn't so long ago that we saw Justin Bieber crashing out and doing the most and being a menace, to say the least. And I'm happy to say that hopefully those days are well past and behind him, especially now that he's a father. The process of getting from there to here, in front of all of our eyes, is not to be taken lightly. If we apply this to our own personal lives without as much scrutiny, we can clearly see that when it comes to authenticity, the journey is never linear. And the truth about being seen is sometimes it costs you more than you'll ever imagine. I wonder for celebrities if they knew all that they'd have to endure, all that it entailed, all that it required, all that it took from them, if at the very precipice of putting pen to paper to sign, if they would still do what they did. Because it's of course different when you're at the end of the road and looking back. I highly doubt any of them would actually admit that, hey, I wouldn't do things this way, or some of the things that I saw or even were exposed to weren't worth the riches or fame. As someone who's been creating content for 15 years, which blows my mind every time I think about the fact that I stacked my camera on a box of books on top of a vase at my mom's place for my very first how to curl your hair with a curling iron tutorial, to see the transition from then to now of what social media can do for someone, how much it can change someone's life and also change their character. What price do we pay at the end of the day? Even if we take this topic off the internet and into real life, is the wage worth the weight of what we have to bear in order to get where we need to go? A more grounded, realistic example of this is back when I used to work at Fortune 500 companies. To see the extent and the length people would go to get a promotion, the amount of lies or cutting corners or backstabbing, I'm just like, is it ever that serious for an 80 cents raise at the end of the day? But that's the thing about authenticity. At the end of the day, it's your definition. It's what you value. It's what you desire. It's what you align yourself with. I think it's safe to say that the seemingly small decisions we make daily can compound and cascade into big changes in our character over time. There's a quote that I always mess up, so if you know it, put it down below correctly for me so I know it. I think it goes, we underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate what we can do in a decade. I get the sentiment because I still don't think I'm saying it right. It reminds me that when we look at the timeline that is our life, sometimes we don't realize how much impact and influence each and every moment can have. It's not to say that every moment needs to be memorable or purposeful or intentional. Sometimes we're just meant to unwind, to relax, to restore. But the more I use celebrities as a case study, the more I realize that it is the small moments that can have a huge impact. Here's another example, and I want to be very compassionate considering that this is an open case. And the more I hear about this, the more confused I become, the more, I don't know, I just feel very uneasy about this. You can let me know if you feel the same. There's an influencer named Ashlee Jenae who I actually never heard of before. She went to Tanzania with her boyfriend who became her fiance on the trip. She seemed to be happy. Tragically, she met her end. Some are saying that she decided to depart, and others say no, she could have never done that because look at her life. So there's two things I want to say up front. You can't really trust social media because sometimes what you see is not what you really get. Some people are performative and some people genuinely are happy in the present moment. But the thing about social media is you post. So whichever way it goes, you still have the intentionality of sharing something to someone, however big or small your audience is. Not as natural as just living in the moment and letting life happen, right? Seeing someone, the outside looking in, who has created and curated a profile around the soft life, it could go either way. I don't know this person personally, so I don't know her temperament, I don't know her mental state, and to be honest with you guys, I've actually known 5 people who have decided to depart, and every single time it's been a surprise. Some can say there were signs, but sometimes in the present moment, you just don't feel it because people can pretend. Or you catch them on a good day, or they don't share how they're truly feeling because they don't want to burden you. I go as far to say that sometimes when it looks like they should be flying high, that's when they feel the worst. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't even want to begin describing how that works or why. Just know that I know. And if you have a better way of describing it, or if you've experienced it yourself and you feel comfortable enough to share with the community, you can leave your explanations down below. It's so weird to see people on social media debating this like it's a cold case from like 10 years ago. Like this just happened. The family members are probably on social media looking for distractions, and God forbid they swipe and scroll and see your breakdown of why this happened or why she deserved it or I'm sure you can tell that I've been very intentional about not sharing too much detail. The only thing I will say to lighten this conversation up a bit is when I saw the giraffe come in the frame, I'm like, are giraffes safe? Like, I don't know. I used to be afraid of dogs growing up. I'm not afraid of them anymore. I mean, people are unpredictable, so animals, I don't know. Just having them up close and personal. Monkeys on the head, snakes around the neck. Like, you guys are really doing the most out here on these adventures. Can we just eat the good food and enjoy the good vibes of the beach? As I was reading up on the case and what they've discovered so far, I really just felt for her family. So many young people say nowadays that their goal when they grow up is to be streamers or influencers, YouTubers, and how that shifted from doctor, lawyer, architect, astronauts back in the day. I'm really worried that this next generation coming up doesn't realize that to become famous, it may cost them their soul. These are only 2 examples. I could have thrown Ye into the mix because there's always something going on with him. Sometimes I see the headlines and I'm like, I have to be reading that wrong. I want to leave you on a lighter note. The truth about being seen can also be this, that when you are seen, you can have a voice. You can have the ability to share your sense of self, your understanding, what matters most to you, your essence. That can radiate to others, and much like sunlight, it can warm them up to be more of themselves. In that way, going viral can be infectious in a good way. Feeling seen amongst your family, friends, in your workspace, wherever you want to be acknowledged, can be a very empowering thing, especially if you stand for something. So I don't want to just lament on the negatives, but I think it has to be said that everything comes at a cost. My auntie used to always say, nothing is for free. I've also come to realize that when the price is unseen, sometimes it's very expensive. Continue to create in the real world and the internet, be your best self, and don't envy anyone else. You never know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you haven't already, you can subscribe for more. And you can also head over to Patreon if you want to suggest or recommend the next topic. So until next time, stay blessed, stay authentic. And purpose. Ah, not my old lady legs cracking.